my name is Leanne Ankerman and I'm the Assistant Director of the Lake County Board of Elections and Registration. This training video will cover the audit procedure and credentials. There are a few of our audit forms in the inspector book, which comes in the inspector kit, so you'll know where to find those when the time comes. The forms are in place for your protection. Proper documentation of what has happened throughout the day on election day will help you if you do get called in front of the Board of Elections, or perhaps help you not to be able to be called in front of the Board of Elections if there are any abnormalities. So my first suggestion is document, document, document. The first and last form that you will be using on election day is the pre-1. The pre-1 form is 5 pages, including 6 steps. And part of that, you will be documenting the number of people who are in line. So make sure that you're doing that. You're doing that at 6 o'clock a.m., you're doing it at 12:30 p.m., and 6 o'clock p.m. So that is the first form that we'll use. We also have the pre-16. The pre-16 is a 2-page form, and this documents the number count between the iPad and the voting machines. Now with rare exception, those two numbers should be the same all day long. You could have a situation where they are acceptably off. For instance, if a first responder comes in to the polling location and signs in on the poll pad, then needs to leave to take an emergency call, they are permitted to leave after they have signed in and return to vote on the voting machine, so your numbers would be off temporarily. Please remember the first responders are the only ones who are allowed to sign in on the iPad and then leave and be permitted to return and vote on the voting machine. So throughout the day, you'll be documenting the number of votes that you have on the poll pad and the number of votes that you have on the voting machines. Please remember, if you have more than one poll pad or more than one voting machine, that you will be adding those totals together. And throughout the day, the numbers should be increasing and it's an accumulative total. If you have any questions or any problems, you have someone that comes in to the polling location you can't find on the poll pad, immediately call the office. We have to make sure that we don't have anybody voting in that precinct, especially on the machines, that is not a registered and qualified voter in that precinct. So make sure that you're documenting that throughout the day. There are plenty of spaces. If there are any abnormalities, there are spaces just to document and write down what has happened. Extra documentation is good. That helps us as we do the audit procedure after the election to be able to determine what has happened. So we do run the numbers for every iPad and voting machine in the county. So we know exactly what the two numbers are for every precinct, and although for the most part those numbers are the same, there have from time to time been an abnormality. So let's just make sure that through that documentation and through just diligent hard work that we're not having our numbers be off at all. The next form that we have is the pre-9. The pre-9 is if someone comes in to vote, they sign in on the poll pad, they proceed to the voting machine, and they leave without hitting the cast vote button. In that instance, both judges, meaning both a Republican and a Democrat, will attempt to locate the person to have them return and hit that cast vote button. If the person is already gone and that's not possible, you complete the pre-9 form and both judges will hit the cast vote button together. Make sure that that is a bipartisan effort anytime you need to enter a voting booth without the voter being present, or even with the voter being present. We also have the pre-3 form. The pre-3 form is the Affidavit of Assistance. This is someone who is allowed with the voter to assist them. There are some exceptions. A boss or a union representative is not allowed to assist. If the person does not have anyone to assist them and they request assistance, both judges may complete the form and provide the assistance needed. So the security of the polls involves who's allowed inside. And there are some people who are allowed inside the polls beyond the precinct board workers, and they would all have credentials. So no one is allowed in the polls without credentials beyond the workers, who also do have credentials. So if a precinct committeeman wants to come in, even a chairman wants to come in, not without proper credentials, you need to check and make sure they have credentials. There are basically 2 types. So we have credentials that are one full sheet. Our mechanics, our deputy election commissioners, there are a few others that have these full sheet credentials. When they come in, they will display them to you. They will not give you a copy. They are not provided copies to hand over, but just so you're aware, you examine them, make sure that they're proper credentials, check for the date, and then allow them to do whatever business they need to do while they are there. The other type of credentials is a two-part form. So you have a top and a bottom section. They will both be filled out. If someone comes in with one of these forms, likely they will have one for each precinct. So they will keep the top, they will give you the bottom. That will go into the inspector kit. You'll return that with your supplies. But make sure that if they come in, they do have proper credentials. So anyone without credentials is not allowed in the precinct. The media will also have a two-part credential form. We typically get calls each year for photography about the media coming in and taking pictures. The media watchers may photograph the proceedings, but not if the voter objects, and they may not show how anyone voted. Now they are pretty aware of this, but just in case you have any issues, just understand they may photograph the proceedings, they can't show how they voted, and not if a voter objects. Now on the credentials between Republicans, Democrats, media, and different types of credentials, they will be different colors. So you will see kind of a rainbow of colors for each election that will be different. So that is a summary of some of the forms that we use for the audit procedures and credentialing to maintain security in the polls. Thank you.